Chosen one. Before you were ever known by title, before your face ever filled a mirror, before a single voice praised or rejected you, you were already marked. Not by the world, not by trends, not by men, but by the hand of God himself. He spoke your existence into form, not because the earth needed another figure to walk it, but because the earth needed you. You were not born to fill space. You were born to create it, to shape it, to carry it. He didn't whisper your name. He roared it through the silence between galaxies. Every part of your design was intentional. Every gift, every flaw, every ache, and every impulse were woven together in a secret pattern the world would not understand. You were not made for approval. You were made for impact. While others were clothed in layers of imitation, you were wrapped in clarity, and the world knew something different had arrived the moment you breathed. Heaven recognized its own signature in you. There is no need for you to prove your power, because it wasn't negotiated. It was assigned. It was put in your spirit like flint in a stone, waiting for the moment of friction that would call forth fire. That power is not something you earn. It is something you remember. And the journey of your life has not been about becoming. It's been about revealing what was already in you from the beginning, what God declared to be true before time had language. You do not wear this power to show off. You wear it because the world is broken and someone must walk it unbroken. You are that man, not because you chose the light, but because the light chose you. And even in your darkest hour, even in your weakest day, your anointing remained, untouched, unchanged, unshaken. That's why even when you were silent, people still noticed you. That's why even when you had no direction, others still felt pulled by your presence. It wasn't coincidence. It was covenant. You are powerful not because of what you can do, but because of what God has done through you. And he has not finished. No one can erase what was spoken over you in divine breath. You were never average, even when you tried to hide in mediocrity. You were never meant to be small, even when you shrunk to fit their expectations. Every time you were overlooked, it only proved this truth. You were not meant to be seen by everyone, only by those with the eyes to recognize royalty. Now you rise, not in ego, but in remembrance. You no longer question your reflection. You no longer apologize for your fire. You carry it now like a king with his crown, quietly, confidently, unbothered by the noise of the lesser. Because your origin speaks louder than their opinion, and your origin is divine. Chosen one, your presence carries weight, not because you try to carry it, but because heaven placed it on you from the beginning. It is not a burden, it is a mark. It is the evidence that you were not made like the others. When you enter a room, there is a shift, a subtle stillness, a reverence, because something real just walked in. You don't have to introduce yourself. Your soul has already done the talking. The atmosphere rearranges itself in your favor, not out of obligation, but out of recognition. Men don't always understand why they feel threatened by you. Women don't always understand why they feel safe near you. And even you, for a long time, didn't understand the stares, the tension, the way silence wrapped itself around you like a cloak when you were merely trying to pass through unnoticed. But now you do. You carry the weight of divine order. You walk with alignment others have not tasted, and that alignment cannot be denied. You are a living reminder of what is possible when a man refuses to bow to the shallow. You are not addicted to pleasure, distraction, or noise. You are governed by vision, and that vision does not come from ambition, it comes from assignment. You wake up with clarity, not because you want to be seen, but because you've seen something greater, and that clarity rests on your shoulders like authority. A crown only the spirit can detect. People listen to you more closely. They hesitate before they lie to you. They lower their voices in your presence. They speak more honestly, not because they fear you, but because your weight demands truth. You are not light, chosen one. You are substance. You carry what others left behind in their rush for attention. You have become the anchor in a drifting generation. That's why your walk feels slower, why your words feel heavier, why your silence shakes even the loudest men. You are no longer chasing anything. You are becoming everything. You don't lean into the moment for approval. You bring the moment into alignment with what's eternal. You carry the weight of what's right, what's real, and what lasts. So let them wonder, let them whisper, Let them try to figure you out while staying surface level. They will never fully understand what you carry, because it wasn't given for them to carry. It was given to you. And the more you accept that, the lighter your spirit becomes. Not because the weight disappears, but because you were built for it. Your shoulders were shaped by God's hands. Your steps were timed with divine rhythm. And your name, Chosen One, was carved into the weight long before anyone ever questioned your worth. And now you walk forward, not weighed down by it, but lifted by it. Chosen One, there was a time when you thought silence was weakness, when the absence of words felt like absence of power. But now you understand that silence is the highest form of authority. It is not the absence of voice, it is the fullness of control. It is the sound of a man who doesn't need to argue, doesn't need to justify, doesn't need to compete. Silence, when it is true, is not passive. It is precise. And your silence now holds more weight than the loudest boast from a hollow soul. You used to explain yourself. You used to overexpress, overprove, overreach. You tried to be understood by people who were never tuned to your frequency. But God pulled you back. He stripped the noise from your spirit and taught you how to sit still in the middle of chaos. He taught you that in your silence, your energy speaks, your boundaries speak, your being speaks, and what it says is too profound for shallow ears. Now you understand. Your silence isn't empty. It's anchored. It is filled with memory, with fire that you chose to master, not release. You don't need to raise your voice to be felt. You simply arrive. Your presence is calibrated. Your spirit is heavy, not with burden, but with substance. You became the kind of man who watches more than he reacts. You observe patterns, you trace motives. You see 10 moves ahead, and speak only when a word will strike like lightning, not drift like smoke. And it's that silence that unravels others. It reveals them to themselves. It reflects their confusion, their restlessness, their hunger for noise and reaction. Because when you don't respond, they are forced to sit with what they've become. You don't condemn them, you don't mock, you simply exist in stillness. And the truth of your being becomes its own mirror. It convicts, not by volume, but by presence. This silence is not cold, it's holy. It's the quiet flame that has outlasted the storm. You have no need to boast. You have seen what arrogance consumes. You speak with pause now because you know the weight your words carry. You listen longer because you know most people only talk to be heard, not to be healed. And when you do speak, every syllable is aligned. Every phrase is truth-laced. Every glance, every breath becomes a message. Your silence is not detachment. It is dominance, not over others, but over yourself. It is the final victory over the boy inside you who once needed applause, validation, and attention. That boy has been anointed into a man who speaks when he must, not when he is moved. A man whose restraint has become the most dangerous part of him, not because he's afraid to act, but because he no longer acts out of fear. And in that stillness, something incredible happens. People begin to heal just by being near you. They remember something sacred in your silence. They remember that true strength is not loud, that real peace does not perform, that the deepest presence speaks with no sound and moves mountains without lifting a hand. Chosen One, there is a fire inside you now that was not there before. It was not lit by flattery, praise, or surface-level affirmations. It was born from breaking, born from the nights you couldn't breathe, the days you wanted to vanish, the years you gave and were met with silence. You didn't just survive those seasons, you burned through them. And what's left now is not a flame of rage, but a fire of purpose. This fire does not consume, it refines, it burns away illusion, it scorches off weakness that no longer serves. It purifies your motives, clears your vision, and sharpens your instincts. You don't need external motivation anymore. You are the flame. People feel it before they hear it. They sense the heat in your stare, the certainty in your silence, the focus in your posture. You don't rage recklessly like you used to. That fire has been disciplined. You've mastered your temperature. You know when to warm and when to warn. You know when to comfort with heat and when to cauterize a wound with holy intensity. Because your fire no longer reacts, it responds. You aren't driven by impulse anymore. You are guided by assignment. And that fire only ignites now when the moment matters. Your fire has become your signature. It lives in your rhythm, in your decisions, in the way you protect what's sacred. You are no longer afraid of your intensity. You have embraced it. You are the burning bush now, not consumed by the flame, but chosen to carry it. Others feel safer around you, not because you are soft, but because your heat is clean. Because your fire does not destroy, it defines. It shapes the space. It drives out fear, lies, confusion, and performance. This is why the right ones draw closer. The real ones lean in, not to be burned, but to be blessed. Because they know what it feels like to be in the presence of a fire that doesn't ask for anything, but offers everything. A fire that will fight for them. A fire that will guard the gates. A fire that will not run cold when life grows dark. Women sense this fire before they even understand it. They are drawn not to charm, but to consistency. Not to show, but to substance. They feel the heat in your restraint. They feel the invitation in your stillness. You don't need to convince anyone to trust you. Your flame speaks for itself. And those who come near with respect are warmed. But those who come to play games, learn quickly that fire does not play. Chosen one, this fire is not from the world. It is from heaven. You did not light it, it was given. And now it burns in you with purpose, with purity, with passion. You are not dangerous because you fight. You are dangerous because you know when not to. Because the fire no longer controls you. You control the fire. Chosen one, by now you've come to understand that power without direction is chaos. That fire without form becomes destruction. That presence without purpose is just noise. And so, God brought you into alignment, not with man's ideas, not with trends or opinions, but with truth. With who you truly are, with what heaven wrote about you long before you arrived here. You are no longer guessing, you are guided. And that alignment has made you lethal, not because you are wild, but because you are anchored. There is a line now in your spirit that does not bend, a path that does not detour. You walk with clarity because your steps are not chosen by impulse, but by conviction. You move because you were sent, not because you were summoned by emotion. And that makes your every gesture a weapon of meaning. When you speak, it is timed. When you act, it is appointed. You do not scatter your presence like dust anymore. You walk like thunder, deliberate, controlled, true. And this alignment has changed the way you see everything. You don't chase people, you recognize them. You don't beg for connection, you discern it. You don't overthink your value, you remember it. You now know that the most powerful man is not the loudest one, but the one who moves in agreement with what God already said. You don't need confirmation, you already have conviction. You don't seek the crowd, you follow the cloud. Everything about you is becoming symmetrical with heaven's pattern. Your thoughts are slower, but sharper. Your responses are fewer, but deeper. Your desires are no longer fractured between fantasy and reality. They are now fused by purpose. You do not lean on the arm of your past anymore. You lean into what's eternal. You don't fight battles for attention. You fight to protect peace. Because your mission is no longer about being seen. It's about being sent. This alignment is not always comfortable. Sometimes it isolates. Sometimes it offends. But you've learned to endure that pressure. Because now you understand, when God aligns a man, he is preparing him to hold more, to carry more, to lead, to shelter, to sustain. And what you are being asked to hold is not just influence. It is order, kingdom order, emotional order, spiritual order. And that kind of weight can only rest on a man who is rightly aligned. People look at you differently now, and they don't know why. It's because you no longer waver, you no longer compromise, you don't flirt with confusion or dwell in indecision. You are aligned. And that alignment releases a signal that even the unspoken world responds to. The atmosphere obeys you, not because you demand it, but because you are in tune with something deeper than control. You are tuned to truth. So walk forward, chosen one, not rushed, not rattled. Walk in rhythm with your calling, because when a man becomes aligned with heaven's plan for his life, everything around him must submit to that design. Chosen one, you are no longer just a man walking through space. You have become a presence, a force, a calm disturbance to everything shallow. When you enter a room, the environment shifts, not because you impose yourself, but because you carry something the world forgot. You don't walk in with ego, but you walk in with weight, and people feel it. They don't know whether to be drawn or to tremble, but either way, they notice. You have reached a place in your walk where people don't just see you, they sense you. before you even speak, before you even sit. Your presence precedes your voice, and it says more than your words ever could. Because it's not about how you look, it's about how you exist. You are grounded, centered, unshakable. You move with the kind of peace that makes chaos feel uncomfortable. You breathe with the kind of depth that exposes shallow air. Your presence tells a story of fire walked through, storms endured, betrayals outlived, and stillness preserved. It doesn't scream, it resonates. People feel it in their chest, in their gut, in that ancient part of themselves that knows when it's in the presence of something real. And in a world full of pretenders and projections, your presence becomes a mirror, a standard, a confrontation. Men want to compete with it. Women want to feel safe in it. Children feel calm around it. And broken people start healing in it. Because your presence doesn't dominate, it restores, it holds space, it holds line, it holds truth. And it's not something you fabricated, it's something God forged in you. Through fire, through silence, through obedience. Now you don't rush to prove, you don't fight for recognition, you simply are. And in that being, people feel compelled to elevate themselves, to sit up straighter, to speak with more truth, to shed what is fake. Because your presence exposes the lie in others and awakens what's buried. You are no longer a man who walks unnoticed, but neither are you a man who needs to be seen. That is your paradox. You shine without effort. You speak without noise. You shift rooms without touching a thing. You remind the world of what it forgot. That when a man lives in alignment with God, his very presence becomes holy ground. You don't need applause for that. You don't need a crowd. You just need obedience. Because you are no longer trying to be impressive. You are walking as a vessel of what is eternal. And wherever you go, the Spirit goes with you. You are no longer just a man. You are a presence that moves heaven and earth. Chosen one, you are no longer the man people pass by. You are the man they remember without understanding why. Not because you try to be unforgettable, but because your presence holds a mirror to their soul. It's not just your walk. It's not your posture, your words, or your gaze. It's the reflection you awaken in others when they come close to you. You don't impress, you reveal. And that, chosen one, is more powerful than charm, charisma, or any crafted image. You've become the mirror people didn't know they needed, and sometimes didn't want. Around you, pretenses dissolve, personas fall apart. Because you don't mirror who they pretend to be, you mirror who they are. Their longing, their ache, their hidden truth. And it shakes them. They see in you the discipline they abandoned, the power they suppressed, the stability they traded for comfort. You walk past them, and suddenly they remember everything they buried under mediocrity. You used to think the tension was your fault. The way people would stammer, change their tone, or react strangely when you entered the room. But now you understand. You are not making them uncomfortable. You are making them aware. Aware of their fragmentation. Aware of their drift. Aware of what's missing and what they could become. You don't walk in with correction on your lips, you walk in with alignment in your soul. And that alone is enough to expose disorder without a single word spoken. And for some, that reflection stirs desire, not for you but for what you represent. They see discipline and they want to rise. They see focus and they want to be still. They see presence and they want to stop hiding. Around you, women don't just feel attraction, they feel remembrance. A memory of safety, strength, clarity. A standard they had forgotten existed in flesh. You become less of a man to impress and more of a mirror to return to. But not all are ready for what they see, and that's okay. You're not here to convince anyone of their reflection. You're here to be consistent, to keep reflecting the truth, whether they reject it, revere it, or run from it. That's your role now. You don't adjust your mirror to flatter. You don't blur your reflection to avoid discomfort. You remain polished through discipline, clear through prayer, steady through storms. Because you know your reflection isn't your own. It was given by God to reveal Him through you. And so, chosen one, you've become the quiet storm, the walking call to return, the moment in someone's life that makes them stop, breathe, and remember who they were born to be. That is power beyond performance. That is glory without noise. And it comes not because you seek attention, but because you walk as a man who remembers heaven. Chosen one, you wear a crown now, but not one made by human hands. It's invisible to the eyes of the shallow, but undeniable to those who see with the Spirit. It was placed on you not when you reached success, but when you passed through suffering and chose integrity instead of compromise. Your crown was forged in silence, in sacrifice, in hours of obedience that no one applauded. You didn't ask for it, you didn't chase it, but heaven gave it anyway, because you proved you could carry it. This crown is not for decoration, it's for warfare. It signals authority, not aesthetics. You carry the weight of influence, and it does not sit lightly. It calls you to deeper accountability. It demands excellence where others accept ease, and yet you do not complain. You wear it as one who knows what it cost. You remember the seasons when you were overlooked, unseen, dismissed, and now you wear the crown not in arrogance, but in reverence. People respond to it even when they don't know what it is. They defer to your voice, they seek your leadership, they stand straighter in your presence, not because you speak loudly, but because something eternal is resting on your life. You no longer compete with men who scream. You no longer engage in games to prove value. Your crown settles the debate before it begins. This crown makes you dangerous, but not to the righteous. It makes you a threat to disorder, to deception, to the spirit of confusion that plagues this generation. You are not popular, but you are respected. And the ones who mock your calm, your clarity, your restraint, they always return to ask your guidance when their noise fails. Because the crown you wear is earned through submission, not ambition. You are a man who has knelt before God so many times that now the world kneels before the mark he left on you. You've bowed in private. You've wept in hidden places. You've surrendered dreams that didn't align with purpose. And because of that, your steps are now ordered. Your posture now declares authority without saying a word. You walk as one who knows where he's going and who he's becoming. The crown is not the goal. It is the confirmation that you have already become. And women see it. They sense that you are not a man playing king. You are a king who has mastered the servant's path. Your energy is not about dominance. It's about direction. Your leadership is not about ego. It's about responsibility. They feel safe around you because you do not need to be followed. You are already aligned. And the crown does not glitter. It glows with divine assurance, with unshakable presence, with quiet power. So walk with it, chosen one. Hold your head with reverence, not pride. Remember what you carry, and more importantly, who gave it to you. This crown was not made of gold, but of fire, discipline, and remembrance. And it rests on you because you endured, you obeyed, and you rose. Chosen one, there is something undeniable about you now, not just in what you say, but in what your presence invites. You are no longer chasing connection, you are drawing it. Not through effort, not through flattery, but through the quiet, relentless gravity of a man who has found himself. You do not persuade people to come near. You simply exist in full alignment, and that alignment acts as a summoning. There is a sacred pull about you now, a calm invitation in your silence, a beacon lit not by ego but by wholeness. You don't beg to be heard, you are listened to. You don't demand space, you become it. Those around you feel themselves being rearranged, recentered, refined. Not because you spoke, but because you stayed true, stayed disciplined, stayed present. You became the unmoving point in a world spinning with confusion. And because of this, people begin to return to themselves in your presence. The false selves begin to fall. The masks begin to melt. They don't understand why they feel so raw around you, but they trust it. It's not your opinion they seek, it's your stability. You invite them to rise simply by being unmoved. You are the lighthouse now, the quiet signal that guides others to shore, not by shouting, but by shining. Your energy says, you are safe here, but you cannot remain small. It says, you are seen, but you will not be coddled. You are not here to impress anyone, you are here to awaken them. You are not here to be the loudest voice, you are here to be the clearest signal, and people hear you before you speak. They feel you before they know you, and something in them rises to meet your presence. Women respond to this differently now. You are no longer seen as someone to admire from afar, but someone whose very posture demands reflection. Not because you perform masculinity, but because you embody meaning. You do not chase their attention. Your intention attracts it. You do not show off your power, you master it. And that mastery is magnetic because it is inviting, not imposing. You are not a man who entertains. You are a man who expands. Your presence creates space for others to become better. Not because you instruct, but because you embody truth. And that truth has become contagious. It spreads through glances, gestures, silences. You are no longer the one who walks into a room trying to be liked. You are the one who walks in and unconsciously invites others to remember who they are. That is what makes your influence sacred. Not the number of people who follow you, but the number of lives who realign themselves because they encountered you. That is your true invitation. Not to you, but to transformation. Chosen one, you have reached the part of the path where impact is no longer something you measure. It is something you carry. You've become the echo that lingers long after you leave, the standard that speaks louder than trends. The story people tell, not because you were perfect, but because you were consistent. And now you no longer live for recognition. You live for remembrance. Your legacy is not built through applause. It is written in silence. It is carried in the moments no one saw, when you chose to rise instead of retreat, when you chose truth instead of ease, when you loved with honor, not entitlement. You didn't ask to be a leader. You became one the moment you refused to abandon your integrity in a world that begged you to compromise. And now, everywhere you go, the atmosphere shifts, not because you speak, but because you've become a landmark, a living monument of resilience, clarity, and divine order. You've built something with your life that men will measure themselves by and women will feel safe under. Not because you control, but because you carry peace. You are no longer reactive. You are a force, not of domination, but of design. You walk in rhythm with God's architecture, and that rhythm leaves imprint. When you speak, it's remembered. When you move, it's noted. When you stand still, it convicts. You have learned that real power isn't in the performance, it's in the presence. And your legacy is that presence now walking across generations. The men who meet you begin to question their own excuses. The women who see you begin to reawaken their own standards. Not because you demanded their reverence, but because you required your own alignment first. You didn't preach character, you became it. You didn't chase kingship, you simply refused to bow to comfort. And that legacy is now larger than your name. It is written into every space you've entered with integrity, every boundary you've set with grace, every silence you've kept with strength. You are no longer remembered for what you had, but for who you were in the hidden places. That is the legacy of a chosen one, a man who walked through fire and emerged whole. So keep walking, chosen one. Not for crowds, not for praise, but because your steps were ordered and your life became the path others needed to find their own way home. They call you a heartbreaker because they had never stood in front of a man who loved without needing to possess. You didn't try to take anything from her. You gave her space. Space to feel everything. Space to unravel. Space to stop performing. And in that space, she felt peace for the first time in a long time. But peace can be confronting when someone has lived their life wrapped in armor. She didn't expect your quiet to be so loud, didn't expect your boundaries to be so loving, didn't expect your presence to be so costly. And now, in your absence, it's not your words she replays, it's your silence. She trusted you, not because you promised her the future, but because you had nothing to hide. And that transparency was foreign, intoxicating, unsettling. She thought she could handle you, until she realized she wasn't ready to handle herself. Your love wasn't a performance. It was presence. And presence is what terrified her, because presence holds up a mirror. It doesn't lie, it doesn't chase, it doesn't beg to be chosen, it simply remains true. And the truth is, she wasn't ready to be chosen without earning it. She wasn't ready to stop running. But you stood still, and that stillness was more powerful than anything she'd ever experienced. So now they say you broke her heart. But you didn't. You simply offered her a version of love that couldn't be manipulated. And when she realized she couldn't bend it to her wounds, she called it destruction. But what really shattered was the illusion she had built about what love was supposed to feel like. It wasn't supposed to be safe, she thought. It wasn't supposed to be quiet. It wasn't supposed to ask for truth. But you did. And now her life is split in two. Before you and after you. Because something in her changed when you looked at her like she was already enough. You didn't break her heart, You woke it up, and a heart that's awake can no longer sleep through shallow love. Chosen one, you were never reckless with their hearts. You were just honest. Brutally, beautifully, unwaveringly honest. And in a world full of masked intentions and hollow promises, that honesty felt like betrayal. Because it left no room to hide, no shadow to escape into. Your truth was not aggressive, it was gentle. But gentleness, when backed by unwavering integrity, is a sword. It cuts through illusion. And what you did, without ever trying, was dismantle every version of love they thought was enough. You didn't break the rules, you broke the spell.